the first time in Steve on Your Side history, we went undercover,
Shoot.
all over town to buy Coke.
$2.45 for a Coke?
The drink, you narc.
Public improved fee, 6 cents.
We came here to Target at Belmar
I just left Target and I had to share my experience.
to test something we saw on TikTok.
And I noticed that there was a new public improvement fee, which was 2.5% per item.
To date,
Public improvement, isn't that what sales tax is?
that reaction to her shopping trip at the Belmar Target remains the most popular TikTok Holly Teska has ever posted.
Normally, I'm a flight attendant, so most of my content is centered around travel.
But this one took off for no apparent reason.
Of course, yeah, the one I made in my car, in my sweatpants.
She had no clue what a public improvement fee was back then.
What does that go to? What does it mean? Really, what kind of information I could get? No one in the store could really answer my questions.
She knows all about the PIF now.
Now that I live in this area of Belmar, I've noticed that they do add it to almost all the businesses.
And it isn't just Belmar where the PIF added 6 cents to our Coke. We did Coke deals across town and found PIFs all over the place. In Sheridan, a 1% PIF at River Point added 2 cents.
This was a deal.
Back in Lakewood, we tried to find Coke at this Whole Foods at Denver West, but it's Whole Foods. So
This San Pellegrino, $2.29, with a 1.4% PIF, it added 3 cents to the purchase. We're in Denver West right now. If we go right across the street, we're at Colorado Mills now. Let's go try the Coke test here. Public improvement fee, 3 cents.
so what the heck is a PIF?
Public improvement fee is just like a tax, but it's not a tax. It's a privately imposed fee, which is imposed through this covenant.
MSU Assistant Professor Jeff Peschute is a real estate lawyer.
The goal is to help finance improvements on the property. It's another financing vehicle for the developer.
In some cases, it helps pay off debts. Other cases, it pays for stuff like roads and parking lots. To truly understand that financing vehicle, you need to understand another acronym.
And the name of the game is OPM.
OPM, let me explain it. I'll take it frame by frame it. O is for other, P is for peoples. The M, that's pretty simple. It's money.
The goal of a developer is to use as much other people's money, or OPM, and as little of their own as possible to develop the property.
Steve on Your Side wanted to know where developers were getting other people's money across the state.
I'm glad you guys are looking into it.
But we quickly realized there is no master list of where PIFs are charged in Colorado. So we decided to make our own.
You can check with the clerk and recorder's office, but I mean, that's a science project, right?
Some cities post their PIFs, but usually you don't find out until after you've paid. And even then, understanding the math at the bottom of your bill can be tough.
But those are usually pretty discreet.
The best way to find out where you might be paying more? Do your own Coke deals.
The first time you shop there, check your receipt.
It's like any cop at the end of a bust. They have all their product right on the table. Steve on Your Side put together a map of PIFs that we could find through public records and Coke deals. That's online with this story on 9news.com, but it is by no means complete, so this is where you come in. We want you to keep an eye on your receipts. Send your PIFs to us. Show us your PIFs. Don't be shy. We'll confirm those PIFs, then we'll put them on the map to give shoppers in Colorado a better idea of where they might be getting charged even more. Steve on Your Side at 9news.com. How are you? Inside's fine.
It isn't every day that an assignment takes me out to lunch.
You know what? I'm between the classic. Let me do double bacon jam instead. I'm sorry.
But this story isn't about indecisiveness or cholesterol concerns. It's about how we paid for that burger at Hop Dottie Burger Bar near Union Station. A story that actually started down the street from here.
What's your name?
Tom.
Near Summit Music Hall in Lodo, where we met Tom Dyke.
Learned a while ago that Colorado had passed a state law that said all businesses had to accept cash.
Tom called Steve on Your Side frustrated after he tried to pay cash during a trip to Summit.
There were signs all over that just said, "We are a cashless establishment, card only." I went to a bartender and asked if I could pay cash, and he just said, "No, we can't do it."
Frustrated because a state law passed in 2021 says that all businesses must accept cash. Businesses who don't comply could be fined $250.
Before I contacted you guys, I had looked up trying to figure out, if I could report these businesses myself, if I could get any information about it. And maybe I'm just bad at Googling, but I couldn't find anywhere to report this to the state.
Perhaps Tom's Googling explains our findings, because Steve on Your Side looked at court data since the law started and found prosecutors have used it a grand total of 0 times. In fact, back in 2021, the governor attached a letter when he signed the bill into law, calling it unenforceable.
This was something that I felt like we could get a lot of compliance without having to really bring down the fist of the law.
Democratic State Representative Alex Valdez sponsored the must accept cash bill. Despite the change in law, he says enforcement is very loose.
Most of the enforcement has come through my office, I would say. What we're doing is we're fielding these calls when folks run into a situation where someone is not accepting cash. A lot of folks just don't know what the laws are, and that's another problem altogether. With larger companies, we've had to intervene and talk with corporate offices and let them know, and they've complied.
It makes sense to have this law on the books. I think it makes more sense to enforce it. Why bother putting it on the books if you're not going to enforce it?
When we reached out to Summit Music Hall, they told Steve on Your Side they do have a way to convert cash to a card. But when one of our producers tried that at a show a few weeks later, all they could find were card-only signs.
And then a magic shroom, but can I do that as a bowl?
Similar to the signs we found during our lunch break at Hop Dotty.
Can I do cash or no?
We need to take exact change in rubber bank.
Exact change? I don't have 57 cents, so you can't, just exact change.
That's what we can get back if you have it.
So our lunch cost $1.50 more. I called Hop Dotty. They said this cashless policy was a mistake. And since that call, the cash-free signs are gone.
That's the way Valdez says this should work. You talk to the business first, remind them of this law before you call him. Have you found a business that won't take your cash? You can tell us about it or report it to Valdez. We've got contact information for his office and our contact information in this story on the Steve on Your Side page of 9news.com. There you can also find out how to spend cash at all the major sporting venues in town. I'm Steve Steger, Steve on Your Side, 9 News.
This was going to be a special 10-day trip for us.
The first 3 days of Nancy and Steve Watson's river cruise through historic French Canada went just to plan. Until that third afternoon.
We're walking on the sidewalk, and there's a manhole cover. She trips and falls.
On the sidewalk, not the
Just
street.
on the sidewalk.
It was all chunky with cement around it. Pelvis was broken in 3 places. That's why I couldn't even get up. And then I had smashed my elbow.
Translating French to English, the Quebec City doctors told Nancy her elbow was shattered and would need surgery.
They did not want to operate on my arm in Quebec City. You need to go home. And I was thinking that way too.
But her hip was broken, so she couldn't just hop on a 747 and come back to Colorado. No sweat, Steve thought. This is what travel insurance is for.
How much did the insurance cost?
It was $1,622.
The plan from Allianz Global Assistance covered all the basics of travel, but it also included a very specific line: emergency transport up to $500,000. Steve assumed that would be enough to get Nancy home.
And they said, we need to see some more hospital paperwork. So we sent them hospital paperwork.
His assumption was wrong.
And so we're there Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday night. And Friday, after getting refused by the insurance company to get her air evacuated back to Colorado.
It was sheer panic.
Their daughter, Corey, was working the phones back home.
Once we got denied pretty quickly, it was like, wait a minute, what? You're not getting her out?
Running out of options, the family decided to go it alone.
I said, my wife cannot continue with this pain.
They found an air ambulance company that could fly Nancy from Quebec City to Centennial Airport.
It was almost $50,000.
They cobbled that money together and got Nancy home. The surgery was successful, and she got better. While she recovered, Steve and his daughters...
We have been drowning in paperwork.
...kept fighting with the insurance company.
Out of the $47,000 that I submitted, they paid us $17,255. So they shorted us $30,000.
We talked with the Watsons back in May, after they'd been fighting for months.
Are they writing checks they won't cash? Are they agreeing to do something and then they're not doing it?
Then Steve on Your Side went to work, asking Allianz why the policy didn't cover Nancy's transport. They told us they didn't cover it because both Nancy's doctor and their medical team deemed she wasn't stable enough to travel, something the Watsons disputed.
They didn't pay for a policy. Well, Allianz, if you think it's bad enough, hopefully you'll help us out. That was not the policy they bought. They bought an emergency travel policy.
But after Steve on Your Side started asking those questions, something changed. The Watsons sent us a short email telling us only that their claim was satisfactorily resolved. That's it.
I circled back with the company to see what changed. They would only say, the claim was resolved. Does that sound familiar? This is a good reminder for anyone. When you buy an insurance policy, you want to read it before you travel. It can make dealing with problems that arise along the way a bit easier. And if you're stuck with a consumer problem like the Watsons, get in touch with us. My email right there at the bottom of your screen. I'm Steve Stager, Steve on Your Side, 9 News. Last year, more than 60,000 people fell for romance scams in the U.S., sending love interests more than $1 billion. Debbie Fox's case is included in that number. She says losing the money was hard enough, but finding someone to pay attention to the case re-victimized her all over again. The feds said her loss was too little to investigate, but her local PD took a chance.
I had just come off of 18 months of wonderful solo travel and adventure.
The fall of 2023 finally had Debbie Fox feeling like herself. After years of trauma, divorce, single parenting, losing her second husband to cancer, she was finally moving forward.
Just really felt comfortable and confident and had a great, strong sense of self.
That confidence led her to an online dating platform called Luxy and a man named Russell.
I came across a profile of a man that had a very gentle expression. His profile was very warm and inviting. So we had a phone call that went well. Then we decided to be in regular contact and video chat. We were having deep conversations. We were having intellectual conversations.
6 weeks in,
he said, I am embarrassed to even ask you this, but I'm short $48,000. Is there any way you can help me?
Debbie still had doubts, but
he wore me down.
She wired the $48,000 to one of Russell's business accounts.
And I thought, okay, poof, he's going to be gone. And he wasn't.
Russell stayed in contact. A few weeks later, he said he just needed 10 grand more.
I sent the second wire. And then suddenly, his attorney is reaching out to me, his alleged attorney, and saying, oh, Russell's been imprisoned.
Now $58,000 out of pocket, she started to question Russell's identity and realized this relationship may not have been as real as she thought.
I am just literally sick to my stomach. Like, literally. I am in disbelief. It is raw emotion.
She just needed help.
Debbie's case landed on the desk of Arvada detective Adam Ross.
Her case right away didn't seem crazy different compared to a lot of the cases that I've seen kind of come through my door. But then I quickly realized that it was actually going to lead me down a completely different path that I'm very thankful for it.
Through a subpoena, Ross realized Debbie's money had been quickly transferred out of a U.S. bank account and transferred into cryptocurrency, the moment most police investigations stop.
I always thought it was untrackable, untraceable.
But Ross kept pushing, even got certified in investigating crypto.
And all of my previous assumptions about cryptocurrency in general are probably just straight up wrong. By tracking...
He explained the process
this one
to Steve on Your Side.
I'm looking for 1.3.
Needless to say,
1-to-1.
It's a little over our heads.
Victim and exchange.
But Ross says he was able to track Debbie's money.
I was able to identify that money going to an actual centralized exchange. The issue is that centralized exchange occurs internationally.
He won't tell us where, since this is still an open investigation.
I have a pretty good idea of where the individual may be, but it kind of is going to take some ingenuity to kind of figure out how we can go after him.
This local detective is making some inroads, but needs some help jurisdictionally from what I can see. So that's really frustrating for me to know that there's a breadcrumb of trails to this individual.
Debbie still has her doubts about whether she'll ever see justice.
Statistics are against me.
But she isn't ready to give up just yet.
There's a ray of hope, and so for me to just say, done, walk away, I haven't reached that point. I don't know the ending of the story for me.
Debbie's story doesn't end there. She now wants to be an advocate for people who've been victimized through cybercrime. She's writing a book about all this, and she wants to speak on behalf of fraud victims and advocate for their rights. Telling her story to Steve on Your Side is the first step. If you're in Debbie's shoes, Detective Ross says, the earlier you report your crime, the better chance police have at getting you your money back. I'm Steve Stager, Steve on Your Side, 9 News. Think your summer yard work list is daunting. Try comparing notes with Norma.
So we can't get rid of any of these weeds because the truck is in the way.
Her to-do list feels impossible because of that teal monster parked right in front of her garage off the alley.
So that's the garage. So you can't see it because there's so many weeds. I'm trying to get somebody out here to cut the weeds, but I can't with this thing in the way.
The forest around the truck should be a sign of just how long it's been here. Norma and her husband don't come back here often, so they aren't sure how long it's been abandoned here. They do know that they've been trying to get the city's attention about this since at least October.
For sure, we don't want to touch it. I mean, we don't know if it's stolen or if they did something in it. We don't know.
I decided to touch it. The doors are locked. The radio's ripped out and shoved in the weeds. There are plumbing supplies in the trunk. Something suspicious. Norma says she called 311, called Denver's non-emergency line, and called the city.
They never responded. I gave them the description of the vehicle. I gave them the license plate number. My neighbors have been calling.
Me and my wife been looking at it, wondering what's going on over there.
Norma's neighbor, Randy, says he's tried too.
We called 311 ourselves just to let them know that we see it too, and left a message a couple times and not getting no response from them either.
So Steve on your side called Denver's right-of-way enforcement this afternoon, and within a couple of hours, Chris pulled up. He's very nice, by the way. Chris called for a tow truck to haul this uninvited guest down the block. Now Norma can finally get that summer to-do list rolling again.
Feeling good. Relieved I can get my car in here.
Want to see us make a car disappear? Ta-da, the car is gone. I'll step away so you can see the work that Norma has ahead of her with the jungle that's left behind after that car was parked there for so long. The tow truck actually just kind of made its way down the block, and the Department of Transportation and Infrastructure tells me they're going to park that car in a legal street parking spot and then refer this case to the Denver Sheriff's Office. They're the ones who are in charge of abandoned car cases. So the Sheriff's Office will take care of it from there. Who knows if we'll get another call from a neighbor saying, hey, there's this green Ford Explorer sitting right in front of my house and has been for a week. We do have a link to the Sheriff's Office form if you have an abandoned car in your neighborhood where you can go and report it. It's in this story on 9news.com. We're live in Denver. I'm Steve Stager. Steve on your side. 9 News.
I love the features of the car.
The Hyundai Ioniq 5 has everything Chris Walsh needed in a new car. The space, the quick climate control.
It's cool fast, hot fast in the winter.
And the EV itself is quick.
I mean, not that I drive fast, but if I wanted to drive fast, it could go fast.
Like 0 to 60 in a matter of seconds. That's not why I'm talking to him. I'm talking to Chris because the state tax credit he got for this car went from $5,000 to 0 in a matter of seconds too. With one letter.
Hey, we've adjusted your tax return.
A letter with an explanation that didn't make much sense.
They said basically I was rejected because my lease for my car was less than 2 years.
But your lease isn't less than 2 years.
No, my lease is for 36 months.
Chris was puzzled because he, like most people shopping for an EV, did a lot of research. So he did some more. This time about the rejection.
The only thing I could find was a ton of Reddit threads of people that this was happening to.
Online, a lot of people are complaining about the state denying their valid EV credits. They're complaining to us too. Barry emailed us after getting his $2,000 credit denied because the Department of Revenue said his car wasn't registered in Colorado. He says he mailed his Colorado registration in with his tax return.
It just seemed like there was a problem.
So we asked the Department of Revenue if there was a problem. No, they said. But they couldn't tell us how many credits they've denied, only saying that they've recently switched to a system that automated approvals for EV credits. Maybe the computer's overly picky? The state says anyone who thinks that they're wrongfully denied should file a protest.
I'm glad that it finally went through. It just took a long time.
Chris filed his and finally got the money that helped convince him to buy his car.
They do this really great job of marketing the program, getting people to buy into this idea of, EVs, and the back-end process is where it all went wrong.
So the state says they processed more than 11,000 of these credits to date. We just don't know if they've denied or approved them since they say they don't have a system to track that. I'm guessing that Chris and Barry and Kenneth and Jacob who've emailed us, so far, they're not the only ones dealing with this strange rejection from the state. So if you are Get in touch with me, Steve on your side at 9news.com, or our new hotline, 303-871-1700. In the studio, Steve Stager, 9 News.